Thank you very much, Nick. Can everybody hear me okay? Yep. I was attracted to join Helix as MD in January of this year by the existing high-grade copper resources that the company has in Cobar in New South Wales. I saw an incredible opportunity there in terms of the underexplored nature of the ground position and the market value of the company. And hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll see the same opportunity that I see. So the fundamental investment thesis for Helix is that we have existing high-grade copper resources. They're located in a very highly mineralised terrain in Cobar, New South Wales. It's a terrific neighbourhood. The quality of our neighbours, the mineralisation, the endowment is outstanding. I joined in January. I hope that I've brought some new energy into the business. We'll be welcoming a new exploration manager into the company shortly. I'm really excited about this person joining us and to share that news with you imminently. And I think you'll see a very invigorated team looking for copper in Cobar. And underneath all of that, the fundamentals for copper are really strong. And so it's a great place to be at the moment, and I think represents a really strong investment opportunity. It's very much a matter of the right metals, copper and gold, in a highly mineralised terrain like Cobar. I've spent a lot of years working in many, many different countries around the world, both as an explorer and as a lender. And I can't think of a better place I'd rather be right now than in Australia. And I reckon the food in the Cobar Hotel or the Nyngan Tavern is going to be anywhere as good as any meals I've ever had anywhere in the world. So really looking forward to going to site and driving this business. Our strategy is really pretty simple. We're very much focused on copper. We want to build on the existing copper resources that we have. We're interested in other opportunities in the area. But when you're a junior company, and Helix has been around for a long time, I think it's started life in about 1986, focus is a really important discipline. We just don't have the capability, the balance sheet, the resources to be exploring both in Australia and on an overseas project, namely our assets in Chile. So we'll be looking to commercialise those Chile assets, either through a joint venture or a divestment. And we want to get eyes on our story. So we're reinvigorating our investor relations strategy, and I think forums like this, working with JP Equity to be able to engage with stakeholders, important investors such as yourselves, and tell the story, understand what we're doing is really important. And I hope you'll see this aspect of our communications improve over the coming months. So we all know the copper thematic. We love it. That's why we're sitting in the room here. There's a looming deficit coming. We're seeing prices sparkle and bubble away, as Nick said, 8-year highs at the moment. It's being driven by renewable energy and electric vehicles. And I'll put my hand up. I've put my order in for an electric vehicle, hopefully to be here in a few months' time. So I'm a believer. And I really like the idea of copper being a fundamental driver to enable that. So I talked about the great neighbourhood that we're in. On the 6 o'clock news, every night now we're hearing, apart from scandals in Parliament, we're hearing about property and you know, the importance of property. And obviously with property comes location. And you couldn't ask for a better neighbourhood to be exploring in than where we are in the Cobar Basin in central New South Wales. What we have here is we have major regional mineralised structure extending north-south here and in other parts of the area. And to the north of we have these two tenement blocks here, this Colorina and Cambalago tenements. And to the north up here we have Eris's operations. They're making about 25,000 tonnes of copper a year. Over here we have Glencore's CSA mine operations, around about 50,000 tonne a year production. We have some significant gold and base metals coming out of Aurelia's operations in this location. And then we have a range of junior companies generating resources and on the verge of going in, or on the verge of coming up with positive studies with significant mineral resources underpinning those. And we want to be one of those companies. So with new funding and high priority targets, we want to drive an increase in our copper inventory to underpin this business case. And that's what I'd like to share with you over the course of the next 10 minutes. So Cobar's flown under the radar, I think, for a long period of time. Just 10 minutes ago, somebody said to me, people work there, but they don't go further in terms of making the major discoveries. But the endowment in this area is incredible. There's probably 3 to 4 million tonnes of contained copper being found, produced, or is sitting in current resources in this region. And in Cobar, they've been mining for over 150 years, as these two photos illustrate. This is the Great Cobar Mine at the turn of the 20th century, and these are current mining practices. So this is a great place to be operating. I'd like now to just bring you into the Cobar region and our assets that are located here. So we have these two tenement groupings here, the Colorina and the Cambalago tenements. These straddle several what we call regional mineralised trends. This trend we call the Colorina trend, and you'll notice up in the north here the Constellation discovery, the Kurrajong deposit belonging to Eris, the Triton mine. This is a really significant copper hub. And then over here we have what we call the Rochford trend, and here the Meriula trend. And I'll be walking through each of these trends with you shortly. Now, on the Colorina trend, we have what we call the Central Zone deposit. It's a mineral resource of 2 million tonnes at 2% copper. And over here on the Rochford trend, we have the Cambalago deposit, 1.5 million tonnes at 1.5% copper. Really important to lean into that concept. We have resources and we have 1,500 square kilometres of tenure to explore. When I joined the company, only 20% of the ground had EM coverage. EM stands for electromagnetic. It's a geophysical technique that measures the conductivity of the rocks. Fortunately, copper's conductive, and so it gives an EM response. And in Cobar, it is a really successful discovery tool. So with only 20% of the tenements covered with EM, it's not surprising that all of the drilling and technical focus was in and around this area. In mid-March, we reported having completed a major aerial VTEM or EM survey over the rest of the tenure. So we've gone from 20 odd kilometres of strike extent covered to now 120 kilometres of prospective ground with high quality VTEM coverage. It's been an incredibly successful program. It's really important for us because when you get that regional context, it enables you to rank and prioritise all of your targets. And that's important because it means you're always focusing your efforts and your money onto the best targets. And without some of these regional scale data sets, going big, going bold, spending 300K on this VTEM survey, geochem coverage, you just don't know. You don't have that ability to assess what is best. We do now. So let's have a look at the Colorina trend. This is 65 kilometres from north to south. And as I said, up to the north here is the Eris deposits, Kurrajong, Constellation, Triton. Down the south here is the Tottenham copper deposits. And here's our ground taking in that major regional structure. We've identified what we now call 8 high priority targets, and don't worry, I'm not going to step you through all of them. But what I would like to point out is this is our resource in here, and I'll come to that shortly. But up in the north here, about 20 kilometres south of the Kurrajong, along that structure, we have this area that we call Quanda. It's always had anomalous geochemistry, a rock chip here or there with some exciting copper values, but it hasn't really drawn people in. It hasn't really had the attention until we've done this VTEM. Because with these discrete, subtle conductors lighting up this area, that Quanda prospect demands further attention, and it will get it. Similar story down here in the south at an area we call Five Ways. No geochemical coverage, virtually no work down there whatsoever. We fly the VTEM, we get several high confidence, intense conductors, and that becomes a really prospective target area for us. So you can see the range of opportunities that we're generating. Now let's just go to the top, or the most advanced of our prospects on this trend, which is the Central Zone or CZ deposit. This was discovered by Helix in 2016. It's 2 million tonnes at 2% copper. It's about 50-50 inferred indicated. It has a very consistent plunge in this direction, and that plunge is controlled by the hinge of a regional scale fold. And it's a genuine high-grade copper sulfide deposit, 11 metres at 6%, 12 metres at 5%, and consistent trend down this plunge. So where are the opportunities to grow this resource? Obviously, further down this direction here. We do have untested downhole and surface EM anomalies to follow up with. But also, this picture shows these fold hinges. This is a fold hinge. This is the Central Zone chute. We have parallel fold hinge positions. So there are opportunities to grow this resource not only down plunge, but also across the strike, if you like, parallel fold hinges. And that is what we will be doing with the drill rig very soon. This picture shows these three fold hinge trends, as well as the untested modelled EM conductors from surface and downhole EM surveys. You heard me talking about constellation to the north, that we sit on the same structure. If you need any convincing that we have the same style of mineralisation, look at this core. In the middle, that's a picture from Eris's constellation deposit, and either side are sticks of core from our Central Zone deposits. Same textures, high grades, and when you take a step back and look at some of the geological features that control this deposit, really strong analogues. So if we step to the west, to the Rochford trend, same story. We've got 10 high priority targets along this trend. It's never had any VTEM coverage before, never had systematic coverage assessment in any sort of geological data set. In the middle here, we have our Cambelago resource. And if we have a look to the north, here we have Boppy Broken Hill historic copper workings. Again, didn't have the gravity, didn't have the results to really draw people in, get them excited, get them to really focus on that area. But with the VTEM, we now have several discrete, high confidence EM conductors sitting in and around that Boppy Broken Hill copper area. And again, that's a prospect that is now a high priority opportunity for us. Down in the south here, for those of you that are familiar with the company, we've generated some soil anomalies, copper and soil anomalies, and some anomalous results in regional scale drilling. But we haven't really sort of leaned into it and really got enthusiastic about it until the VTEM underneath lit this area up as an area that demands drilling. So you can kind of see how exciting it is to have this VTEM data set that reinforces targets and highlights opportunities. And one of the really exciting opportunities, and probably my favourite prospect of the asset suite, is here at Cambelago, where the regional VTEM highlighted other opportunities or EM conductors around the existing deposit that I'll describe to you shortly. So that's really exciting, and that's going to draw us in for drilling, scheduled to start in mid-April. So this is the Cambelago deposit. This is a long section view. This is about 250 metres across this dimension. Here's some historic workings, old-timers digging high-grade copper. And from the results, we've interpreted 2, possibly 3 steeply plunging chutes within that deposit. And that drilling extends down just over 200 metres vertical. Amazingly, we have these 2 untested EM conductor models from downhole EM surveys completed about 7 years ago. Never been tested by drilling. What an amazing opportunity for us. So this is where we'll start our work, and you can see there's real potential to grow this resource down plunge as well as regionally, as well as around the Cumbalago deposit itself. This is a large copper and soil anomaly that we've outlined, and sitting underneath that copper and soil anomaly are these bright electromagnetic conductors from the recent VTEM. It's just compelling. And thirdly, the Mariula trend. This is a sort of an earlier stage, more conceptual anomalies that we have here. What's really interesting with a geological hat on, is that we've outlined a fold closure with a conductive unit in the stratigraphy, and that sort of supports our overall geological thoughts. But as well, once again, we've brought together historical workings with high confidence, discrete EM conductors to generate some higher priority targets that we'll follow up on. So what you've just seen walking through these 3 trends is you've seen compelling advanced resources that I think have got a great opportunity to grow significantly. You've seen a range of mid-level prospects and targets, as well as these earlier stage conceptual targets that we've got here at Mariula. So there's a range of activities that we undertake, and I think really high probability of discovery success, i.e. finding more copper. As I said, we have 3 projects in Chile which the company generated in its own right. They're early stage. They're actually very well located. They're at what we call lowish altitude for Chile. They sit on infrastructure, and the company's had some really interesting early stage proof of concept type results from them, such as 350 metres at 0.3% copper and a little bit of gold. So those kind of results in that kind of situation does create interest, and we are looking to divest these projects or JV them out, but in such a manner where we retain some exposure to the upside. We need to focus on what we're doing in Cobar, and moving these on will enable us to do that. So I want to give you a bit of a perspective on Helix from an investor's eyes. What is Helix, or who is Helix, and what's going to drive the share price? So there's a bit of a corporate snapshot here, and we got involved with JP Equity to work with us to raise money so that we could do meaningful exploration. And we now have firm commitments. We've raised $3 million. There was really good demand for it. I think JP Equity did a great job, and I thank them for that. And I welcome the new investors to the share register, and I hope we have some fun in developing this story. And thank you. We have a couple of significant entities on the share register in terms of Yandal Investments, and people will know that that's Mark Creasy's group, as well as Metec. And I've included a little bit of a bio on our board in the back of the presentation, which is on the table. Now, that raise was done at 1 cent, which was at market at the time. And I think since then, we've moved to 1.5, 1.4 cents. And I think that movement has been realisation as we've started to tell the story of a different strategy in terms of our exploration approach. And hopefully that trend will continue. Now, I think it's fair to say that the company, it's a long time since the company has been so well funded. And the reason that that's significant is because when you have a reasonable cash position, you're able to conduct systematic, methodical work. it's fair to say that over the last few years, Helix, with a very low treasury position, has tended to do more piecemeal or campaign-style work and hasn't had the luxury of being able to collect these, or to go big and bold, as I like to say, in terms of collecting these big data sets. And I think you've got an appreciation for the importance of some of those regional data sets. So that's fundamental change. Now, our work process then is very much regional target generation, test those targets, grow the resources. Exploration's a bit of a numbers game. The more targets you test, the luckier you get. Test the targets. Have a win, move them on, or fail fast and get on to the next one. That's our strategy. And we'll be undertaking our work, or we've started, in terms of regional, prospect, and then resource scale work. This is the kind of work program that we have planned across the three trends that I spoke to you about: Collarina, Rochford and Merriula. I think it's fair to say for Q1 we've achieved the objectives that we set ourselves, and we're now very much looking forward to drilling on our existing resources at both Kembelago and at the Central Zone deposit, and bringing those other regional targets forward. And in closing, I'd just like to say that I'm not quite sure that, how you reconcile our current market capitalisation with the kind of opportunities that I've just outlined to you. I suspect that I need to work harder in getting across the message that we've got significant high-grade copper resources in a great neighbourhood to be working in. We've got the money, we've got the targets, and I can almost hear the drill rigs coming. They'll be there in mid-April. Our management is being rejuvenated. I think there's a bit of energy back in the company, and I'll introduce our new exploration team to you shortly. So I think there's a terrific opportunity there to redress this gap, and hopefully at the end of this presentation you now appreciate why it was that I was compelled to join Helix in January of this year. Thank you very much.